In this third part of our cultural competence training, we are going to examine how our cultural competence is formed and grows. It is a developmental process, just like any other learning process. We talk about faith development and stages of faith. We talk about intellectual development and different levels of learning depending upon the age of the child through adulthood. We know that one doesn't become competent at playing an instrument or playing a sport without a lot of development. You start with the basics, don't you? And then you grow and learn from there. And so, cross-cultural understanding is also a process of formation. We have been shaped growing up into particular cultural standards, understandings, perspectives, but now we also want to learn about other cultures. And that's the process we're looking at in this lesson. Our video by Cristina Gonzalez will take us through the developmental process using the intercultural development continuum. She will show us the different stages of development, moving from a monocultural or single culture mindset toward intercultural mindsets in which we can move between cultures in appropriate ways. And as we look at this, and as you listen to that video, I would encourage you to pay attention to this stage of minimization, which is the transition from being monocultural into being intercultural. The reason that it's important for us to pay attention to and understand minimization as a transitional category is because Christians tend to often minimize difference. Now, let's not stereotype here and say that all Christians minimize, but we do know from many tests of people of faith that often we are in the category of minimization along that developmental scale. We tend to minimize differences when we say we love everyone the same, or we say we don't see color. Of course, now we understand that there are probably unconscious biases at work even when we're making these claims to love everyone the same or not to see color or difference. Minimization is less than the optimal position, especially for those of us who want to be effective in ministry and really represent Jesus Christ in the world. We are not cookie-cutter people. We don't all look the same, act the same, think the same. And it is a mistake to pretend somehow that we are all the same. Instead, we have to be bold enough to recognize that the church is filled with diverse people around the world, not only in race and ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, but also things like socioeconomic status. Things like whether we are able-bodied or a person with a disability. All of these things matter quite a bit. And God has created this vast and beautiful diversity. And so it's very important that we begin to think not in terms of everyone being the same, but asking about the different ways we live in, engage and encounter God's world. After you have viewed the video from Christina Gonzalez, there are some additional resources that you can engage. There is a link for the Intercultural Development Inventory. She will speak about it. If you want to explore it further, you can click on the link. You can also find a qualified administrator if you would like to take the test. Secondly, there's a link to a blog that provides just some brief tips for improving intercultural communication. How can we most effectively and respectfully communicate when we are dealing with cultural difference? And finally, you will really enjoy the TED Talk by Mellody Hobson, where she suggests that we should move from taking the position of being colorblind to being color brave, to actually speaking and talking about race. From that TED Talk, we can extrapolate to any question of difference. Rather than ignoring persons with disabilities, engage them on what their life and culture is like. Instead of tiptoeing around the question of LGBTQ inclusion in the church, have open and honest conversations, and especially talk to people who are gay or bisexual. Get some understanding from them rather than holding stereotypes. So again, I really encourage you to watch Mellody Hobson's TED Talk. It's a very illuminating conversation.